Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Garance French, and this is Garance French Revolution. So I already recorded this video, but I didn't like it, so I am doing it again without the camera this time. Basically, what I wanted to do was a recap of the medias that I have consumed in January 2026, so movies, TV shows, music, and books. I used to do this on my other channel, Garance French, a long time ago, but a couple of years ago, I decided to move anything cinema on this channel. But what I used to do is monthly recaps of TV shows I was watching, and I remember loving this. Also, this will be a way for me to talk about some things that I have watched, but don't have enough material to make a full review of. So here I am. I will put in the description the timestamps in case you want to skip some parts. First off, let's talk about the movies that I've watched. I started the year by watching All About Eve. I had heard so much about this movie that I basically knew the plot already. Disney Plus recently put a lot of old movies on their platform in France, mostly starring Marilyn Monroe. She is in the movie in a small role, but the real star is Bette Davis. I love this movie so much, and I gave it a 10 out of 10. Another old movie that I watched was Cleopatra. I am a history nerd, especially when it comes to ancient Egypt, and I have always wanted to watch this movie. When I was in high school, I went on a school trip to Rome and visited the studios of Cinecittà, which is the European Hollywood. In the museum, there were costumes from this movie, as some of it was shot there. So I was so excited to see that this movie was available. I can't lie to you, I had to watch it in multiple parts because this movie is like 4 hours long, but it was worth it. The acting was great, the costumes, although extremely historically inaccurate, looked so good, and I was surprised by how historically accurate the plot was. I feel like 4 hours were necessary to really explore this whole story. I also gave this movie a 10 out of 10. Switching gears, I watched People We Meet on Vacation. This was released this year on Netflix, and this is an adaptation from a book. We follow two friends who go on vacation every year together and slowly fall in love. I thought it was cute. It was okay, but I don't know if I would watch it again. I thought the main character was super annoying at first, so it took me a while to get into it. But overall, it was cute. I just didn't have enough things to say about it to make a full review. I give this movie a 7 out of 10. Now back to my old movies shenanigans, I watched How to Marry a Millionaire. This is another movie starring Marilyn Monroe, although this time she has a bigger role. We follow three women who, like the title says, want to marry a millionaire, but love gets in their ways. This was such a fun movie. I love the story, and the twist at the end was so fun. I mean, I could see it coming from a mile away, but the girl's reaction to it was hilarious. I gave this movie a 9 out of 10. It was about to be taken off Netflix, so I watched Darkest Hour, the biopic about Winston Churchill. This movie won Gary Oldman an Oscar, and I understand why. We follow him as he is elected Prime Minister and handles the government through the Second World War. Lily James is also in this movie. She appears to be in every movie I put on. I mean, I don't mind it, she's great, but she's everywhere. I love watching movies about the Second World War, and I like how they portrayed Churchill. I think was very true to life. There were some good moments, but it was also not the most entertaining sometimes. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Another movie that was released this year that I watched is The Rip. It's a movie starring Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It's a cop movie about drugs and corruption. I didn't care for it because those kind of movies are not really my cup of tea. It was very dark, both in subject and in visuals. The whole story takes place at night, so you have to squint your eyes to see anything. I like the twist of discovering who was corrupt, but overall, I wasn't very entertained. I think I'm just not a target audience. I gave this movie a 6 out of 10. And finally, for the movies, I watched The Help. I had heard a lot about this movie, and I loved it. It explores tough topics of racism and misogyny, but in a hopeful way. This was both funny and hard to watch, but it was so interesting to see how different people were living back then. The cast is incredible, the acting is amazing. I just discovered one of my new favorite movies. I gave this movie a 10 out of 10. Let's move on now to the TV shows. I started the year by finishing watching The Nanny. I grew up watching this show, but I had never watched it in its entirety. It's really a show that I love, although the last couple of seasons were not as fun when Fran and Maxwell are married. But I really loved it. Something else I finished watching was season 2 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. It was still being released on Disney Plus. I remember liking season 1, so I watched the second one. I am not very familiar with the Percy Jackson universe. I did watch the movies last year, but they were kind of bad, so I don't remember much. But this show is pretty good. It's fun, we have some action, and I love the diversity. I can wait for season 3. In January, I also rewatched Rick and Morty up till season 7 because it's all that's available to me. I love this show, and I hadn't watched it in a while, so I watched it on like 2 weeks. Something that was released last year but was only available this year for me is the first part of season 5 of Abbott Elementary. I love this show and I love to watch it. It's always funny and interesting and probably one of my comfort shows. Now let's talk about a miniseries that was released in 2026, and that's His and Hers. It was released on Netflix and it is starring Tessa Thompson and John Bernthal. It's about a murder and the investigation. We follow a couple, one of them is a detective and the other one is a journalist. But they might have more connection to the victim than they let people know. I really love this show. I love Tessa Thompson and I will watch anything she's in. She's such a great actress. The story was great and the twist at the end was incredible. Without spoiling, at the end, the characters get kind of the general happy ending and I was like, oh, that's how it ends? That's a bit disappointing. But then, there's another ending that I was not expecting and suddenly the whole thing makes sense. I give this show a 9 out of 10. Another thing that was released on Netflix is The 7 Dials of Agatha Christie. This is an adaptation of a novel that I don't know from Agatha Christie, so I was very excited. I love Agatha Christie and I love watching any adaptation, but I have to say this one disappointed me. It was only 3 episodes long and it was so boring. It was pretty bland and dull. A lot happens, but the acting from everyone is very flat and it makes it feel like nothing important is happening. There were still some nice twists and turns, but that's only due to the plot and not the execution. I give this show a 6 out of 10. Another show I started to watch is The Beauty. This is the latest show by Ryan Murphy, and I honestly don't know what to think about it. It's a bit better than All's Fair from last year, but honestly, it's not really hard to be better than that. There are some things that I don't like about this show. Maybe I'm not a target audience for Ryan Murphy shows. I keep watching it a bit, but I'll let you know if I end up not finishing it like the last one. And finally, for the TV shows, I started to watch Smallville. This is a show I used to watch when I was younger, and it's now on Netflix where I am. So I decided to watch, and so far, I like it. There are 10 seasons and I don't remember much of the show, so I am excited to rediscover it. Let's go now to books. I started the year by reading a book that could be translated to Willpower, a User's Guide by Japanese author Kenichiro Moki. This is a sort of self-help book that talks about willpower. I'm not gonna lie, I only listened to it because it was free on Audible. I'm always looking to expand my horizons, so I listened to it and it was alright. There were some interesting facts, but yeah. Other books I read were my mother's collection of books by French author Marcel Pagnol. If you can tell, I am French and I grew up reading his books. Marcel Pagnol is a famous French writer and director. I actually have a podcast episode about him coming up on his channel. Last year, I started to reread his autobiography, which is made of 4 books. The last one, Le Temps des Amours, is the one that I finished at the beginning of January. This book was published after his death, so it's not as polished as the previous books, but it's still very interesting. The next 2 books were actually from the same story. They are adapted from a movie that he made that he liked so much he turned it into 2 novels. The first one is Jean de Florette, and the second one is Manon des Sources. It takes place in the places where Pagnol grew up, and because I just read his autobiography, I feel like I can recognize the places. Those novels are really a nod to the south of France, where he grew up, and it's very beautiful. Let's talk about the music now. I only listened to one album, and that's Locket by Madison Beer. I love the singles from this album. I really love Make You Mine and Yes Baby. I love the new single Bad Enough, and the music video is incredible. If Madison Beer knows how to do something, it's making a great music video. I didn't connect much with the other song, but Bad Enough was definitely added to my playlist. Let's talk about some music videos. I watched a music video for La Perla by Rosalia. I didn't like it as much as Bergen. It looked good, but there was no story. I didn't understand what it was saying. Maybe I just didn't get it. Girl Get Up by Doechii and SZA was technically released last year on December 29th, but I didn't watch it until January. I like the song, it's on my playlist, but the music video is just okay. I also watched I Just Might by Bruno Mars. As usual, this is the fun video, love seeing all the Brunos dancing together. But the one video that truly shook me in January was Stateside by Pink Pantheress and Zara Larsson. I was not expecting this video and I was gagged. These 2 queens really made one of the most iconic music videos that I have seen lately. Their brands are opposites and they make it work together. Leg Up by Zara, seeing Pink and Zara wearing each other's outfits, watching it put me in a good mood. Anyway, that's it for this January recap. I hope you enjoyed it and hopefully I'll see you next month. Bye!